What are you talking about?
You know I'm talking about some visual art this time. And when we say visual art, we mean like paintings and sculptures. Visual art to us is like different. Visual art for the sake of this podcast and for the sake of distinguishing is like paintings and sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about visual art this time.
Give me a hint. I want to guess.
It's a bit of art history. I want to say that it is an important part of art history, but it's kind of not.
It's like, okay.
It's kind of niche.
Okay.
I think I might have told you about it before, but not to the length that I'm going to.
It's important, but it's not.
I am focusing on a small part of a big part of the art world.
Post-impressionism.
No.
Dadaism.
No. As much as I love talking about Dadaism.
Are you talking about an era or a piece?
An era.
A whole era?
Yes. I'm talking about Taylor Swift Eras Tour.
No. Are you really?
No.
Oh.
I should though.
That's visual
We're
art.
seeing that. We're seeing the movie in October because I didn't get to see the concert, but you did.
Yeah, I did. It was really good. Okay, I'll let you guess mine.
I know yours.
What is it?
The Emoji Movie.
It's a book adaptation.
Right.
To a movie.
It's an old film.
It's an old film.
Okay.
It's from 1924.
Wow.
Any guesses?
The Emoji Movie.
It's like a silent, like black and white.
It's like black and white, The Emoji Movie, and it's like, and then the title card comes up that says like, I am a meh emoji.
Nope. Okay. Okay. Well, welcome to Gallery.
Okay. We had a great first episode, I think.
I think so too.
And it was a lot of fun. And we're back. We're back for another round.
You thought we wouldn't.
You thought we wouldn't.
But now here's two. There's two of them.
And I'm staying hydrated this time.
And I'm staying hydrated this time, except in a weird way, because McKay lost the top of my Stanley mug, and so now it is simply a mug and not a cup with a lid. What am I saying?
Now her Stanley is a gaping oil drum of a hole because you've seen those TikToks where it's like girls with their Stanley.
And they're carrying something huge.
Yeah,
like
they're carrying like an office water jug.
I have to like cradle mine like a baby because it's like huge.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to fill up our. I thought I saw it, but it was a Reese's Pieces wrapper.
Oh.
I went to fill up our waters before the podcast because we want to stay hydrated. And I unscrewed yours and it's gone now.
And he was like scouring.
I literally looked our entire apartment.
All right, what do you stop?
It's gone.
It's okay. I'll just drink. I don't even need a straw now. I can just sip it from the rim.
Do that.
It takes a long time for the water to get to my lips because it's so big.
Yeah.
I'm really hydrated. Okay. Do you want to go first or me?
I think you should go first.
Okay.
I like when you go first.
I'll go first. Okay. I'll start it out with a question. What is the longest movie you've ever seen?
Probably Oppenheimer. Wait.
Have you ever seen like a Bollywood movie?
No, isn't RRR? You
No.
heard about RRR.
Yeah, I did.
Isn't that like 4 hours or something?
I don't know. Well, I mean, Bollywood movies are long, but this is not a Bollywood.
Okay.
It's American. American!
Okay.
The longest movie you've ever seen is Oppenheimer?
What's Oppenheimer's runtime and what's Avengers Endgame's runtime? Because I didn't see Avatar: Way of Water. I don't care about those freaking blue people.
McKay. Okay. I'll just go because I know you don't know it. It is a movie called Greed. And it is by director Eric von Stroheim.
Cool.
And it was made in 1924. And
Wow.
Get this.
I love when you talk about old film.
Get this. Because this is really, it's such a cool one. And the people that saw like the full version of it say that it is the best movie ever made. And have you heard of it before it?
I know you've told me about it. I know you've told me about it because you would get home from. I think you told me about it when you like got home from one of your film classes.
And I was like, listen to this movie.
You're like, listen to this movie. I think I remember you talking about how there were two versions.
There's a couple different cuts, and so the original cut, Eric von Stroheim, he made this. Oh hi, buddy. Our dog's here.
This is our manager. Do you want to hold him up to the camera?
He just woke up. KK.
Hi, baby. Everybody meet our doggy. This is our doggy, KK. He's named, show off his bandana. One of our friends made a bandana for him. He's sniffing the mic. He's licking the mic. Thank you for what you had to add.
Thanks,
he has
manager.
A little Animal Crossing bandana. Hey, all done. KK. He can stay there, whatever.
Yeah.
He has a little Animal Crossing bandana because he is named after KK Slider from the Animal Crossing series.
He's in charge of us.
He is in charge of us. He
answered
keeps
to
us
him.
in line.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one uploading all the socials.
Okay, anyway. KK, listen up.
He's just gonna chill there. Perfect.
Yeah. So the original cut of the movie is 10 hours long. It is a 10-hour long.
Hours?
It's a 10-hour-long movie, and so you'd have to like
that
sit down.
is 3 Oppenheimers.
You'd have to sit
That's
down
like-
for all day to watch
That's
it.
like 7 hour and a half
trying to do
movies.
math? What are you-
No, I can't do math.
He's like, that's 100 5 minute long time. Okay, no, I'm bad at math too.
That's like 4 Scott DeWaz videos.
All right. So the original cut was 10 hours long, and only 12 people ever saw that cut
Why?
because the studio executives were like, that's way too long.
Oh.
And so we have to cut it down. And so they made him cut it down to...
Wait.
What?
May I interrupt you, please?
Yeah.
Why was it so long?
Because,
Why was it so long?
listen, Eric von Stroheim was kind of a drama queen.
Okay.
And he loved this book. Like, he
Is
really
the
liked
book
it.
called Greed?
The book is called McTeague.
Okay.
And it was an adaptation from the book McTeague, and he wanted to make a film version of it.
Okay.
And one negative reviewer, said every comma of the book was put in.
Whoa. That's a crazy...
Whoa.
Our dog is...
Sit, baby.
That's crazy.
I know.
Every comma. That's a good review.
I know,
want to see
right?
that on Rotten Tomatoes.
And so I want you to think about this question. As I talk about the plot, as I talk about what Eric von Stroheim did to make this such an accurate film to the book. The question is how far should you go for a book adaptation?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I was just thinking about like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings.
And people are like, it's not, actually, it's
the
not
book
true
is
to the
never
book.
as good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but maybe it does make sense to cut some things out. Well,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
but like how much? Okay, keep going. I am very eager to talk about this.
Right? So
Eager.
the setting is interesting because it's in 1924. This is obviously a black and white silent film
Yeah.
with title cards interspersing between
Love it.
explaining everything.
Does it have the piano?
Yes. It
Really?
Does. Yeah. Of course it does. And it's more than piano, of course.
Yeah.
There's actual like assigned soundtracks to it kind of thing. I don't know if those are still lost or if they're found or whatever. But
Okay.
So it was originally 10 hours. They had him cut it down to 6 hours himself. And he said, I cannot cut another frame. And they made him cut another frame.
No way,
And
because
so-
he was just so passionate about it. And
Yeah, he's like, this is the story. I can't cut this. This is everything. Like, I shot this on purpose.
That's
when
amazing.
he finished filming, he had 85 hours of footage to cut through.
and back then,
That's a lot of reels
you
to
didn't
film.
have Premiere.
That's a lot of cranking.
You didn't have Adobe or you didn't have DaVinci Resolve.
You had to cut it all by hand.
Man, that
I
sounds
know.
awful.
And so he cut it down to 4 hours with his buddy. And then he was like, this is it. I cannot. And the studio took it from him and cut it down to 2.5.
That must have killed him.
2.5 hours.
No way.
And that was the version that they released.
Wow.
And it flopped. And when he saw
Really?
it, yeah, when he saw it, he said, I completely disown this movie. It's not mine anymore.
Whoa. Okay, that makes me think of Dune.
Yeah?
Because the most recent Dune by Denis Villeneuve, is that how you say his name?
I have no.
I don't think it is.
I know how to spell it. I'm a reader, not a speaker.
But anyway, Dennis. I'll just call him Dennis.
Dennis V.
My man Dennis V. I know that Dune is pretty dang true to the book.
Yeah. And it's
we've
long.
read a little bit of the book.
It's long. And we've got a part 1 and a part 2 coming out.
I'm so excited for Dune 2.
Me
oh
too.
my gosh.
Sandworm.
Can I do a little sidebar here?
Huh.
Can I just say how good 2023 has been for film?
Yeah.
And how good 2023 has been for games.
Yeah.
They've both
been a good year.
We've taken it upon ourselves to see more 2023 movie releases and to play more 2023 games, and it has been
a blast.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think everything we've seen, well, Ant-Man.
Ant-Man has a place. We'll get into that in another episode.
I hate Ant-Man Quantumania. Sidebar over. Back to
Greed.
Greed.
So those are the cuts. This is kind of the background to it. But first I want you to understand the plot to this. So why there's so much included.
So the background is...
It's a really long movie.
It's long and the director's insane.
The director's a little insane.
In a good way.
He's a very drama queen-esque guy. Like, he had this huge reputation for going way over budget and way over schedule for all of his movies. Like, he was even fired for this. For the studio, like the original studio that he worked for.
From MGM?
He worked for Universal Film Manufacturing or something like that.
Is that the same as Universal today?
I don't know.
Is that a stupid question?
I don't know, because they always change their name.
Okay, whatever.
Everybody changed their name all the time. But then he moved to Goldwyn, which turned into MGM.
Yes. Okay, I'm familiar with that.
And so...
Because they got the lion.
Yes, that's what they have. So Goldwyn picked him up, and when they picked him up, because they knew his reputation, they were like, "We need you to sign this contract." And the contract was really strict and really specific. It said the maximum length of your film can only be like 8,500 feet. They gave him a budget. They said your budget has to be $175,000.
$175,000 back then.
Is a lot of money.
That's a ton of money for a movie.
You know how much he ended up spending on Greed? From anywhere from $550,000 to $665,000. It was a little over budget.
Dude's going crazy on the CG.
That's a little crazy.
He's going crazy on the marketing.
So it said all films had to be under 8,500 feet of film.
Oh,
you know how much he shot? 446,000.
So he broke his contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he did.
Tell me about the plot.
Okay, the plot.
Because I feel like
we keep getting away from the plot.
Distracted you.
Okay, so once upon a time.
This is good already.
There's this guy named John McTeague.
Okay. Oh, that's the title of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
McTeague. And there's a dentist in town, and his mom is like, please make my son a dentist. And so he becomes the apprentice to this dentist. And so yes?
That rhymed.
Apprentice to the dentist.
Apprentice to the dentist.
We both tried to keep going, but we're bad at rapping. Apprentice to the dentist, and Greed is...
Apprentice to the dentist going to fix your teeth. He's amazing, and he's great, and he loves to eat beef.
Wow, okay.
Is that true?
No.
Oh.
I don't know.
Dentist. Okay. Apprentice.
So he's apprentice to a dentist.
Great.
And then he grows up to be a dentist. And so there's John McTeague, and his best friend is named Marcus.
Okay.
And his best friend's fiance is named Tina.
Marcus's fiance is named Tina?
Mm-hmm. Marcus and Tina, they're engaged.
Okay.
And Marcus is like, Tina, my girl, would you like your teeth cleaned? That'd be so fun.
Okay, keep going.
And so he takes him into his buddy John McTeague's dentist practice. And while they're waiting
dentist shop.
While they're waiting there, Tina buys a lottery ticket, as you do.
I do that every time I go to the dentist.
She just buys a lottery ticket. And then when Tina sits in the chair, John McTeague is working on her teeth, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And he falls in love with her.
He's like, she's sitting there like...
like mouth open.
Mouth open.
Chompers out.
And he's like, Tina, how old are you? And she's like, like dentists always do.
They have like conversations with you. Dude, I once had an orthodontist that always talked to me about like Dancing with the Stars. And it was like in depth. He's like, did you know Bill Nye is on Dancing with the Stars? And I was like,
I didn't know that. That sounds amazing.
He was, yeah,
Whoa.
he was. Anyway, wait, no,
I'm not going to look it up.
Anyway.
I had every time I went to the dentist, they would be like, have you kissed any girls lately? And I'm like, no, look at me.
Good. Anyway. So you know what Marcus does when he realizes that his best friend is kind of in love with his fiance?
No, I don't.
What do you think he would do?
Kill him. Wait.
No, he was
oh,
like,
no.
I
can't say that.
He said, all right, have her.
What?
Not my problem. And so
what?
John's like, okay. And he marries her. He marries Tina.
That's how we met. No,
who were you engaged to? And so John McTeague is now married to Tina. And Marcus is like kind of fine with that.
That was fast. They got married
He's like,
fast.
he said bro code. He said, you can have the girl if you want her. And so they got married. And then right after they get married, Tina's lottery ticket goes through and she wins $5,000. She like wins the lottery.
Oh, wow.
And $5,000, the purchasing power of $5,000.
That's like $1 million back then. That was a lot.
Today, it's like $180,000.
That's like 2 months of rent. Seriously.
$5,000? Yeah.
Keep going.
But that's a lot of money, obviously.
It is a lot of money.
And now Marcus is really upset. Not because he lost the girl, but because the money could have been his. And so he obviously he gets mad.
He gets greedy.
What's
it's the name of the movie.
Oh.
Okay, later.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right, sorry. And so he's like, hey, that should be my money. And John's like, what? This is my wife. I'm not going to give it to you. And so Marcus kind of sabotages him. And he reports him to the police because he doesn't have a license to practice dentistry. And
the 20s.
The 1920s.
You could do anything you wanted.
And so he gets his practice shut down because of Marcus. And so they don't have like a job. And so John has to start doing hard labor. And his wife is like a janitor at a school. And their life kind of sucks. And slowly they start, eating through their money and stuff. And they're living in squalor. But Tina will not touch the $5,000. She will not let them use it.
Why?
She's greedy. In the end, she says, this is my money. We are not using it. And the money that they are making from their jobs, she takes it. She takes parts of it. And so she saves up like $400 or something.
Which is also a lot.
Which is a lot, yeah. And so John McTeague is really upset by this.
Whoa.
And he's like, he starts drinking heavily and he steals her savings. Not the $5,000 because that's in the bank. He steals her savings and, he goes wastes it and stuff. And so that makes her really nervous. And so she pulls her $5,000 out of the bank and she starts going a little crazy over it. Like she spreads it out on her bed and she sleeps on it, like on all the dollar bills, like it's a bed. Kind of a
Can I say something
move.
really quick?
Yes.
You know that scene in Cyrano where she's got the letters? She's like,
letters.
Oh, letters. Okay, continue, please. I don't want to talk about that stupid movie.
Cyrano.
Gosh dang it.
And so she's just like hiding all this money and John gets really mad and he's a pretty volatile person. And so naturally he just kills her. Like he just kills his wife. I mean.
He does?
Yeah. He ends up taking out his
wife. You said that so nonchalantly. Okay.
Naturally.
Oh my gosh. Why?
He gets rid of the wife and because he wants the money.
Oh my gosh.
And so now he's on the run. Keep in mind, this is a 10-hour movie. There's a lot that's happening, right?
Jeez.
And so now he's on the run and he goes to Death Valley.
Yeah.
And he meets a buddy there and they're like, we found a quartz vein. Like, let's mine it. Like, because he's got this 5,000 out, but that's not enough. He needs more.
Quartz vein? What is this, freaking Minecraft?
And so they start mining this and the police are chasing him and Marcus has teamed up with the police to go find John because he still is really mad at John.
Oh, we got to watch this later.
It's really cool.
Is it streaming places? Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what cut.
Criterion. Maybe it's on Criterion.
Yeah, maybe.
I want to watch it. It sounds so cool.
It's really cool. Okay. Are you okay with it if I spoil it then?
Oh, no. Am I okay if you spoil it? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll spoil it. It's a 4-hour-long movie if you want to watch the whole thing. So I'm going to spoil it. If you're scared of spoils, you can leave and then come back.
That was kind of threatening.
You can get out of my way. All right. And so he's minding his quartz vein. He gets a bad vibe and he's like, I gotta go. Right. And then he looks over his shoulder and it's all the police and Marcus or whatever. And so he rides his horse and his 1 bottle of water and his $5,000 into the desert, into Death Valley.
Oh.
And then the police are like, well, he's done for. And so they stop. But Marcus is like, no, I'm going to be the one to catch him. And so he follows him into Death Valley.
Oh.
And eventually it ends up that they're way out there. They both start slowing down because of the oppressive heat. And this is the ending scene. They slow down and they're kind of like really exhausted and stuff. And they finally meet. They start scuffling, you know, beating each other up. Marcus ends up shooting the horse and it shoots the water that they had. And so they have no way to get out, no way to leave. They have no water. And this is crazy. The ending scene. John McTeague ends up winning the fight, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And Marcus dies. And at the very end, Marcus, his last act was to handcuff himself to John. And so the very last scene of the movie is John is handcuffed to a corpse. He can't reach the money, and he has no water, no horse in Death Valley. Like, that's his end.
That is amazing. Well, okay, it's not amazing, but what a good ending.
Right?
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow, that's very symbolic, too.
It's huge.
Wow.
And so...
how he's kind of shackled himself through greed to his problems and to his undoing.
And what it does to people.
Wow.
It's crazy.
What are the lengths that you'll go to get what you want?
So obviously, this is like...
oh my gosh.
This is a tragedy. And the American...
Wait. Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
What happens to Tina? Oh, she died.
Yeah, she died.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I answered my question in my head as I said it.
Yeah. And so it just ends up really bad for everybody.
Wow.
But you should know that there's one subplot. There's actually 2 that were cut out.
I was going to ask if there were any subplots.
There's 2 subplots. They were mainly cut out because of time. If it was the full 10 hours, you would have gotten a lot of subplot. But one of the subplots is this cute little old couple that, like, they're super lonely. They live in the same apartment building as John and Tina.
Okay.
And they never really meet, but they live adjacent to each other, and they always put their ear up against the wall and listen to each other. And so they're really familiar with each other. And their lives are less lonely because they're familiar with each other, right? Like, they really care about each other, but they've never, like, actually met.
The couple and John care about each other?
These 2 old people
really care about each other.
Mm-hmm. And one day they actually meet, and it's really sweet, and they fall in love. And then right before the wedding or after the wedding or something, one of the old people reveals that they had $5,000 just in savings, and the other person says, okay, and they're happy.
That's crazy.
And so it's what could have been, you know, what could have been John and Tina if they weren't
if like one choice, they could have just chosen not to be greedy.
Yeah.
Could have chosen each other.
Yeah.
That's a cool subplot.
It is cool. And the other subplot is like a much worse greed tale.
Oh man, that makes me think of like what should a good subplot be? And I really like it because it kind of gives a juxtaposition to the main plot. Mm-hmm. And when you compare the subplot, I think it makes the message of the original plot so much more significant. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah. So that's the plot of it. So now that you know kind of what happened, let me tell you the circumstances behind shooting this film.
Okay.
Because it's famous. It's super important. So it was a 10-hour cut, obviously. It's like 85 hours of footage that they had to go through. Like, this was a lot.
Jeez.
And something about...
Should imagine.
I know. Something about Erich von Stroheim is that he was so dedicated to this and so passionate about the movie that he was making that he made all of the choices that he needed to make because he believed it was the best he could do, like, for this story.
Okay.
And so he
wanted to do it justice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so in a place in film history where everybody was kind of on sets and everything was super manufactured and the lighting was manufactured, he took his little camera, his little portable camera, and he did everything like on the streets, which wasn't really heard of before. People call this film the first feature film that was shot on scene, like not in a set. He
didn't use a set. He went out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he actually found the places that the novel talked about and like the actual like inspiration for the author. Yeah. He was super into it. And so
jeez, man. Dang.
Yeah. And even the quality of the film is really good because he used all of the techniques that actually made Citizen Kane famous.
Like lighting and chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro, lighting where the subject is lit and the background is really dark.
Yeah.
He has all these really cool angles. Like if you watch it, it's really cool. All of his films, it's tinted. You know how they used to tint old film?
Mm-hmm.
Certain colors, because it was black and white, of course. But,
like the hand painting?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And so he would like make
that.
whole reels, different colors, like red for angry or yellow for happy, you know?
Man.
But for the gold in the movie...
Early color grading.
Early color grading.
Cool.
But for the gold in the movie, he would paint each individual frame like gold with like gold leaf. And he'd like
he used gold
make
leaf?
it shine. I think so.
Really?
Maybe.
I feel like that wouldn't show up on the film.
Okay, maybe not.
Maybe he used something else. Maybe
Something
he did use gold
gold.
leaf.
A gold color for the gold leaf. Actually.
That's not an actually moment.
All
You
right,
just
sorry. Anyway. So it's pretty crazy, but listen.
Wow, what a wild movie.
Listen to the filming. Okay, I took some notes here because
Oh no.
there's just so much.
The tone of
to
your
it.
voice is making me. You're like, you gotta listen to this.
Yes, literally. So Eric was so dedicated to this film that for 2 months, he worked 20-hour days in pre-production.
Jeez.
Every day. So much so that the first couple days of filming, he would collapse on set.
I'm no geologist, but I'm pretty sure that there's only 24 hours in a day. So
that's not geology.
I'm no zoologist,
Nope.
but
All
I
right.
think that he only got 4 hours of sleep.
I guess. I don't know if that's true, but
I'm no gastroenterologist,
what are you saying?
but I know that you don't fall asleep immediately like that. So he probably got off set. He went to his house. He made a little dinner. He's probably pushing 2.5 hours of sleep. I'm sorry.
But it literally like made him pass out on set the first couple days.
Yeah, that's freaking crazy. What's wrong with him?
And
I'm not this passionate about anything.
it took him
Maybe
100
Metroid.
and oh yeah, Metroid McKay. And it took him 198 days to shoot it. And for reference, most like medium films take like 3 to 6 weeks to shoot.
It's like half a year.
Yeah, this is like 6 months. And there was a scene where a knife gets thrown at an actor's head, at John's head, and Van Stroheim really wanted a knife thrower to do it. Like, he wanted an actual knife thrown at this guy's head. And the studio was like, no.
This guy's insane.
And then, this is so interesting to me. They were doing it on scene, on the place that you were shooting about. And so he literally took all of his actors, his crew of 42 people, to Death Valley to shoot. And the place where they were shooting was 100 miles away from any populated area. And so they had no roads, hotels, gas stations, running water.
And it's the 20s. They didn't have like a switch or anything like to keep them occupied.
It was a place filled with tarantulas, scorpions, venomous snakes.
This guy is insane. But
What?
I'll talk about it later because I just have you've got me thinking about so many things. Oh my gosh.
They shot for 2 months in the middle of summer. And crew members... This is funny to me. The highest temps that summer, we know, like today, were like around 123 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really hot. But crew members reported up to 161 degrees.
This guy is a serial killer. What? Oh my gosh.
And every day, crew members would collapse from heat exhaustion. I said 42. There were 43 crew members, and 14 of them were so sick that they had to go home to LA. So he like wiped out like a third of his crew.
This is why we have donuts on film sets now, and this is why we do it.
We have like guilds and like actors' rights.
Yeah. Well,
kinda.
We don't have a lot of actors' rights and writers' rights right now.
Yeah.
We support the strike.
But listen, this Gene Herschelt, who's one of the main guys, I think he played Marcus, he spent a week in the hospital after shooting with internal bleeding. He lost 27 pounds and was covered in blisters. And you know what he had to say about it? It was the best role of his career.
Wow. That makes me think of like something I was thinking about is like, this guy is insane. But it also makes me think, dang, this must result in the most insane movie ever.
Literally.
Because sometimes crunch is a big thing in the game industry. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talk about crunch. Cyberpunk 2077 is a big example where developers are just working around the clock to meet a deadline, not to make a good game and the game comes out and it's terrible. But this makes me think of like, I guess they didn't really have a deadline they were working towards and he was just making it. Yeah. He turns up the intensity, turns down the limits. What kind of film do you get from that?
Yeah.
An amazing one, I guess, because everybody's saying that it's the best film ever.
Well, actually.
Oh.
The reception was really poor. It flopped.
Which version? The whole 10-hour version?
The 2.5 hour long version.
It flopped. Really?
I'll get to that. Wait.
Okay.
I'm not
so
done
excited.
with the tragedies of Death Valley.
Sorry.
This is my favorite part. There was a point where Eric von Stroheim, in the middle of the desert, John, McTeague, and Marcus were doing their final fight scene, and Eric von Stroheim was reported to be yelling, "Fight, fight, fight!" And then he said, "Fight like you hate each other as much as you hate me." So that gave him the motivation.
There you go.
He would even bring musicians onto set in Death Valley to play like sad violin and sad like harmonica. And it's a silent film, like they can't record that, but it's just for the actors to really get in the moment. Yeah. He like went to lengths. And then
he did.
At the end, he had a whole mine renovated for this, and they like renovated a mine so he could go in and shoot there.
That's why he's going over budget.
I know.
Because oh my gosh, this guy's amazing.
He would shoot between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., even though it was in a mine and it was dark. And he insisted on descending 3,000 feet into the mine to shoot.
This guy is crazy. He's having knives thrown. There's people overheating, and now he wants to go into a cave spelunking. This guy is crazy.
And it would have looked the exact same at 100 feet down. But he needed to go 3,000 feet down.
Oh, dude.
So.
They say in film that, like, if you want something to really look a certain way, then do it the actual way. Like, if you want a VHS effect, then, like, run it through a VHS machine or something to get that real look. Don't go this far. But maybe you should. Maybe it'd make a good movie.
Literally. And so those were the conditions, and this is kind of what all of his actors and him went through. Like, there's months of just like him acting like this and being so dramatic and being so dedicated to his work.
Wow.
And so he started editing it down, you know. I told you that he edited it from 10 all the way to 6 with a buddy, and then they took it down, or all the way to 4, and then they took it down to 2.5, the studio.
Yeah.
And he said,
oh my gosh.
When he was editing, here's a quote. He said, "I could take out sequences and thus get the job over in a day. That would be child's play. But I can't do it. It would leave gaps that could only be bridged through titles. When you do such a thing, you have illustrated subtitles instead of a motion picture." And
jeez, dude, this guy's so bold.
Right? And it was known about the guy who ended up taking his 4-hour cut. The studio gave it to this guy who was known to like add in titles. And a lot of people make fun of it.
Oh, to like bridge the plot gaps?
Bridge
that's
it.
Crazy.
And he was like the title guy, and everybody like makes fun of it to this day because it's like, and thus was John, like, and it takes like a whole hour of footage out, you know?
Dang.
It's crazy. So, with all of this, the very end statistics are, like I said, his budget was $175,000. He went all the way up to maybe $665,000. He shot 446,000 feet of film. And on its initial run in the US, Canada, and other markets, it made $274,000, which is way...
They lost a ton of money.
They lost a ton of money on this. And then in like the 50s, because it was such a flop, everybody was like, what is it? Like, what?
Because there's just so much missing, and
it was pieces of film, you know?
Oh my gosh, there's so much thoughts in my head.
Dude, Eric said when he saw the 2.5 cut, he said, "It's like opening a coffin in which there was just dust, giving off a terrible stench and a couple of vertebrae and a piece of shoulder bone. It was as if a..."
So specific.
No,
what?
Literally. He's a drama queen.
Yeah.
He said, it was as if a man's beloved was run over by a truck, maimed beyond recognition. He goes to see her in the morgue.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, he still loves her, but it's only the memory of her that he can love because he doesn't recognize her anymore.
This guy is
That's
insane.
What he said about
his
movie.
Gosh.
So, that is the greatest book to film adaptation of all time. And people still say that it's like Sight and Sound when they first started making their lists. It was on the top 10 films of all time a couple years in a row by them. And everybody, like, to this day, people say that 10 cut must have been, like, the greatest film all time. That's why it's the Holy Grail.
We don't have the 10-hour cut anymore. It was lost?
It's
Dang,
lost.
Dude.
So only 12 people ever saw that 10-hour cut.
Dang, dude.
And in 1999, the Turner Entertainment got together and they took, like, 600 stills from production stills, like background stuff. And they took his script and they kind of pieced together a 4-hour version from the 2.5-hour version. And that's the version I watched.
Oh, interesting.
4 hours.
And was it good?
It was great.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
That's Greed?
Yeah, that's Greed.
Wow.
Is that crazy?
That is crazy and beautifully said.
Thanks.
And dude, I was thinking about the plot and I was thinking about how intricate that was and all the different themes there. And now I'm just thinking about the filming conditions.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if, what's the homie's name? Eric?
Van Stroheim.
It's almost as if Van Stroheim was a little greedy himself.
Oh.
It's almost as if he was just greedy to have his perfect movie his way. Not willing to budge. He was stubborn. Same way the characters, they wanted what they wanted. And that caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the difference between the movie and how it was filmed was how it was filmed ended up with like a good movie in the end, but like with the actual movie itself, it's a sad ending.
Yeah.
Not a happy one. And so I just kind of drew that conclusion. I don't really have anything else to say about that little observation, but the lengths people go to create.
Yeah.
And is it worth it in the end?
Yeah.
To have a little, is it worth it to put so much work in a 1.5-hour MP4 file, really? And, well,
because
is it? I guess it depends, you know?
There's all the people that see adaptations, like things like...
Oh, yeah, because we got to bring it back to that question, too. Keep going, sorry.
There's a lot of people that see these adaptations, like Percy Jackson, of course, or Harry Potter, or, Lord of the Rings, and stuff like that. And people will always say, oh, they missed the Peeves plot line. Like, there's like so many subplots and things that are taken out and stuff.
Peeves is in Hogwarts Legacy, and he tells on you on that one quest. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
I just thought of something.
What?
Do you think this would have been different if TV had been invented?
And he could tell like a series?
Yeah.
Probably.
Because everybody's
I'm not familiar with early TV, though.
10-hour movie, but if it was, 1 hour, 10 episodes.
That makes me think of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And how perfect that plot is for a series. Because they had this big plot, they had a series planned out. And it also makes me think of Raya and the Last Dragon, where they have an Avatar-sized world and an Avatar-sized plot, and a big message they're trying to push. They squeeze it down to 1.5 hours and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I think that it probably would have, because you're wanting to see what Tina's doing in the next. Oh man, it probably would have been a better TV show.
Yeah.
That's such a good thought. What were you saying before I interrupted you with Hogwarts Legacy? Something about them adaptations, getting rid of the Peeves storyline with the... Yeah,
so I'm going to say everybody will always be mad that something was taken out or that it wasn't translated from book to movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The way that I've thought about it in the past is that these are different mediums and they cannot be compared almost.
Oh.
It might be the same world and stuff, but the way of storytelling is so fundamentally different that I don't think that you can achieve in any way the same feeling or world that you can in literature as compared to film.
I think it's futile to be like, why don't we still have paper books? Or like, why not just watch the movie version of the book? Because books are a different experience.
Yeah.
That's why I like reading. That's why you really like reading, is because it's a different experience to kind of be lost in your head about this world rather than have it shown to you. And so I like that point that you bring up of different mediums.
But at the same time, it's refreshing to me to see a creator who wants to pick up every single thing that the author originally intended to be a part of the world. And so I know that a lot of people were frustrated by the Lord of the Rings reboot or whatever that was, the TV series.
Rings of Power.
Rings of Power. I never saw it myself. Never saw it. But I had a lot of friends who were so dedicated to the world in the series. They knew all the lore and stuff. And when it doesn't match up, they're like really upset because it seems like the creator doesn't care enough about the world, which obviously Eric von Stroheim cared.
Yeah.
And is that a fault or a good thing?
Yeah. I think whether or not it's a good or bad thing depends on the medium. Yeah. He cares a lot, and a 10-hour movie, it just is too much.
I think it was perfect.
You think it was perfect? But would it have been better as a TV show? Because I feel like it would be at that length.
But that wasn't an option for him.
That's true. What comes to mind for me is, when we're talking about adaptations, is The Last of Us. Which I think is and even I want to talk about 2 adaptations: The Last of Us and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Both great adaptations in different ways.
Yeah.
Because the Mario movie, say what you will about like it technically, I think it's great. And what it needs to be, but I'm talking about like they took a world that doesn't really have a plot, and they just They did deep cuts. They got deep into the Mario world. There's tons of little references in there, and that's what makes it really good. And that's what makes it a good adaptation, is because they stuck with it, and they translated it to the medium in a good way. You know, they say, what's the point of the Mario games? And that's to have fun. No one cares about Mario storylines. Same thing with the movie. Who cares about the storyline in the movie? It's for fun. And I think in that respect, they succeeded. Now with The Last of Us, what made the original game really good? The suspense, the story from the gameplay. And I think they translated that to the TV show really well. They said, you know, so much combat, so many people and things dying all the time is going to get really boring on the screen, and that suspense that comes from those areas won't work in a non-controllable environment. So they took out a lot of the combat is not in the Last of Us TV show, and they got the same effect because the game and the TV show feel the same. They got the same effect by changing things for the medium. The game achieves the suspense and drama and story how it should in the game, with the limitations that it gives you, you know, the choice to, do I engage the zombie or do I sneak around it? And the TV show does the same thing, where it has the suspense, it has the story, it has the drama, not from killing zombies, not from combat, but from story and characters, and they tell the same thing different ways. And I think what I'm trying to say, because I feel like I'm not going anywhere. No, it's
making sense.
I feel like mediums have different strengths, and you have to play to those strengths. If they had zombie sections over and over in The Last of Us, it wouldn't have been good. It would have gotten boring. It would have gotten stale. And it's disappointing to not see so many infected in the TV show, because the infected in The Last of Us are so iconic. But I think it's still a better adaptation. So with Greed, you know, maybe there's some things that didn't need to be adapted. I mean, what's your thoughts about Greed based on what I just said about mediums having different strengths?
That was really well said, McKay.
Thank you.
I think that was perfect. And I think I totally agree. Just what you're saying is that even if it's not totally accurate to the original source material, it still might be better if they changed things based on the medium.
Not necessarily better, but still successful.
Equivalent.
Equivalent?
Actually. Equivalent. Okay.
Equivalent.
Oh, good. Okay, so with Greed, maybe if he hadn't have gone so far as to put his actors in hospitals, then it would have been more successful, and the studio would have seen it for what it was. That's a lot. That's a great thing to think about.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like, was the studio more interested in runtime? And they said, no, only things under 3 hours will be acceptable to audiences.
Yeah.
You can't have a 2-day showing with, an intermission and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if like that was the main thing. And even if they saw the quality of the story for what it was at 10 hours, they were like, it doesn't matter. Audiences won't be interested in that.
Because a book is different.
Yeah.
A book you can put down, but a movie you got to stay. Or you got to stay and you
got to come 2 nights in a row.
And that's the thing about adaptations is with Harry Potter. I mean, how do you condense the Deathly Hallows? Or, I mean, that's 2 parts. So
yeah.
how do you condense it down to 2 hours? How do you make it a sit through experience? And I think as we get, the world, everything is an adaptation nowadays. And you got to make sure that you're respecting the medium.
Well said.
Thank you. I thought everything you said was well said.
Thank you.
What a perfect introduction to that movie. I want to see it now.
It's cool.
We got to watch it. We'll put it on the watch list.
For audience members,
Should I see where it's streaming?
You can look it up on YouTube. I think like a 2-hour version is on YouTube. And you can also look up clips. Like just type in Greed 1924 ending scene, and you'll see what I'm saying.
I'm looking up where it's streaming. This is a R-rated comedy satire from 2019. I don't think it's the same one.
Seems like that's different. But that's why it was called The Holy Grail in the end, because it's this movie that apparently was the greatest ever and we'll never see it.
I can't find it.
Well, you can look up clips on YouTube. We'll stop it at that.
Cool.
Okay.
Wow, that was beautiful. I love you.
Old movies are the best.
Old movies are awesome, man.
Give me what you got.
I'll give you what I got. So,
amaze me.
I'm going to talk about art history and a specific part of art history that I think is just kind of hilarious and raises a lot of questions about today. So, what you need to understand about like art history pre-impressionism was that like
religious.
Majority, it was religious, but like really the only thing, okay, I should start by saying this. Art until Impressionists showed up, art had a purpose. I don't want to say functional because not all of it was functional, but it had a purpose. It's for the Greeks, it was to honor the gods, and to for the Paleolithic people, we don't know what their purpose was, but maybe it was to decorate. But we also think that because of the size of the art that they made, it was portable because the Paleolithic people were nomads. So we think, oh, well, they probably made this to help them remember a deity or, record things. So art throughout history had purpose. It was to honor deities, and it was to record. It was to, whatever. I'm not saying that there wasn't any just art for art's sake back then, but it's few and far between, and we have a lot more now. Mm-hmm. We have a lot more art that hangs in our house. We have a lot less art that is like for funerary purposes, because that was the main thing. So that is really cool to me because it means that like art was everything to ancient people, especially the Egyptians. And I want to talk about the Egyptians because the Egyptians and Egyptian art is amazing. You know that meme that's like, the ancient Egyptians believed that the most important thing you could do in your life was die. That was true. Egyptian art was an art of permanence. They really believed in the afterlife really heavily. Mm-hmm. And this mostly applied to royalty and the higher ups, but if your art was good, then you were having a good afterlife. If you had vases and beautiful art buried with you, then you're set.
I'm having a good afterlife.
You're having a good afterlife? Why?
Because I have all your art hanging in our house.
Anyway, so that was the biggest thing with Egyptian art is first, it was to honor the royalty, and I'll talk about Egyptian royalty in a second. But art was the afterlife was important, and art was a way to celebrate the afterlife, to prepare for it, to immortalize their royalty, because the royalty was really important to them. They have a host of gods. This is really important. The Egyptians were polytheistic.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the guy with the hawk head and
the sun god.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. But they have all these gods that they worship. They have, gods of the river and of the wind and of the sun. And
I've seen Prince of Egypt.
You have seen Prince of Egypt, which, by the way,
really
is
good.
Really good. We love Prince of Egypt. So good. It's like my 6th favorite movie, I think.
Whoa.
No, it's not that high, but it's still really good. But I mean, okay, let's talk about Prince of Egypt. You know that shot where Ramses?
Oh, and the big
head?
Yeah.
Great example.
Because that's what they were doing.
That's what they were doing. They had these big statues to immortalize.
What's that called? The big lion?
A sphinx.
The sphinx.
I almost said Shinx. Shinx is a Pokemon.
Shinx is a Pokemon. Actually.
But yeah, sphinxes to, and another thing that art did, how they immortalized their pharaohs was they put pharaohs were basically gods. If you were worshiping the pharaohs, you were worshiping gods. So pharaohs were super important, and that's Egyptian art. Art to them was everything. It was their religion. It was their leadership. It was their afterlife. And it is just, it just stirs me to think about them treating art so seriously in this way.
Could you imagine if they treated it like that?
Imagine if we had just had art everywhere of the President of the United States and we worshiped him, and we, what he says goes, and he was basically our deity. That's
crazy.
That was really similar to how they lived, and they were just a remarkable people. They had a writing system. And the pyramids, I'm not going to talk about the pyramids because if you want, you can talk about the pyramids all day. They were built by aliens, but no.
I've seen the History Channel.
But I mean, they were amazing. They were an advanced civilization. I think we tend to think of ancient civilizations and their architecture as because it's in the past, we kind of minimize it a little bit in a way that we think of we think of only the Parthenon. And we think of only the Colosseum, mm-hmm. and we think of only Stonehenge. But no, the Egyptians had a vast civilization, and they were just, I love Egypt. I love the Egyptians and how they treated art, and their art is very beautiful. So that's the next thing I want to talk about is the Egyptians were, I don't know how else to put this, but the Egyptians were they were big.
Strict.
They were strict in a good way because they believed in respect to the gods.
Uh-huh. And
they believed that, and that is reflected in their art. There is something that they have called an Egyptian canon. And I'm going to show some images. So great if you're watching. Audio listeners, you should be able to just look over at Apple CarPlay or open your phone, and the episode art will have some of the images that I'm talking about, if that works. We'll see. But so audio listeners, we don't want to alienate you. I'm going to show some images on my iPad. So Egyptian art was very rigid. You've seen it. They're they're like that, and
biceps out.
So they had something called the Egyptian canon, which is kind of a fancy word for their art style. It's how all of their art was done, at least for the higher ups. It's how all their art was done. They had to follow this canon.
The Bible for art.
Kind of. But it's more like rules.
Okay.
It's more rules for how their art looked.
Is that not the Bible? That's Exodus.
Yeah. Hi, dude. Our dog is back.
Hi, KK.
But, so the Egyptian canon called for their legs and their head were in profile. So that's what you saw from the side. Mm-hmm. But their torsos and eyes were to the side. So the eye, how you see facing forwards, was on the side of their head. Okay. Let me show you some examples.
Oh, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they're always, they're facing forward, head turned.
Yeah. How do I get to my albums on an iPad? Am I stupid?
That's why you should take paper notes like me. I print my notes out for every episode.
You want a medal?
Yeah? You have one?
Yeah. I was kidding.
You like pull one out?
This is a great example. And I'll show this on the screen.
Oh.
So you see it's very rigid.
Yeah.
There's no movement.
Look at her abs.
I think that's a dude.
Oh, look at his abs.
And here is another great example.
Oh, cool.
So rigid. And this is another great example. So you see the eye.
He's giving himself an insulin shot.
No, he's holding something ceremonial. I forget what it is though.
Oh.
He's giving himself an insulin shot.
That's what it looks like.
Notice, this is another feature of a lot of ancient art. It's called hieratic scale. If you want to show that somebody's important, you make them bigger than everybody else.
So this is like royalty.
That's probably a royalty. Yeah. And this writing probably says who it is. And
you can't read it Egyptian?
Not yet.
Well, when will you be able to?
I don't have the Egyptian course on Duolingo. But anyway, so you see how rigid it was and how static it is. And that even, what do you think, KK?
He's yawning. He's a little
yawning.
bored.
So that even applies to their sculpture. So that is a sculpture of a pharaoh. Same thing, very rigid. He is, and look at how they portray their royalty. He's very buff. He's very fit.
He's solemn.
He's very solemn. I'm glad you said that because the expression. Oh,
sir.
Okay. Our dog is bumping the light. Do you want to check it? We had to cut a little bit because our doggy was getting excited. He was knocking stuff over. But you see this sculpture, very rigid. So that is kind of the Egyptian canon. Rigid. Some archaeologists uncovered a temple that was like, it was like stopped in the middle of being built. And they found a grid like over the drawings of like a guide.
What?
So they had like templates, the ancient Egyptians.
Blueprints.
Yeah, blueprints for how the canon should be. They had a place where like exact proportions. So and this is like Old to Middle Kingdom.
Wow.
Now I want to talk about the main event. So
that wasn't the main event?
That was not the main event. I just wanted to set up ancient Egypt and how strict they were. So they have pharaohs for generations and for generations and for generations who follow this canon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about
someone doesn't.
The Amarna style. Because
the what?
The Amarna style.
Amarna style.
Amarna style. And I'll explain what that is soon. But the Amarna style is a really specific style because one pharaoh came in named Akhenaten.
Akhenaten was like, nah.
Akhenaten. He said,
put some wiggles
he
in.
said, frick your canon, I'm doing what I want. And he did. He changed everything.
What?
He broke conventions, he broke traditions, and he
put some wiggles.
He puts in, let me show you.
People smile.
So first one, yes. I mean, there's facial expressions, and let me show you. So this is like Old to Middle Kingdom.
Yeah.
And this is the Amarna style.
Oh, dang.
Look at all the curves. There are things overlapping.
Yeah.
And he is portrayed with his children. His children aren't off to the side. He's holding his children, and he's portrayed with his wife. And the interesting
women.
The interesting thing is the wives were always shown to be smaller, either smaller or like equal. She is just equal. And we'll talk about this more in a second.
He loved his wife.
Yeah. There's movement. The characters are interacting with each other. There's still elements of the style, but like it's amazing. And there's just so much to unpack here. But yeah, this is Akhenaten with his wife and his 3 kids. And so let me show you an example this is some sculpture of Old to Middle Kingdom. This is within the canon. Still very rigid. This is a pharaoh and his wife. They're equal. They're very rigid. But look at how he portrays him with his wife. I mean,
they're hanging out, dude.
They're hanging out. They're interacting with each other, and they're so skinny.
Yeah.
They're not like buff and fit. They're lanky. Their faces kind of look weird. So he changed things quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I want to show you a sculpture. This is a sculpture of Akhenaten. That's
he had a little belly.
He has a little belly, and that's a good thing because it shows that he's well fed. He's wealthy.
Oh.
He can afford food. He can eat a lot. And look at his face, how long it is, and how big his lips are, and how pronounced his eyes are. It was so different. And look at how he portrayed his wife.
Oh, babe.
Isn't that beautiful?
You know what I mean?
But his wife is also portrayed by herself. He wanted to honor her. He loved her. I mean, for most pharaohs, their wives were like, it was all business. But he loved and cherished his wife and kids.
Dude.
And he had this beautiful statue made of her.
Yeah.
And look at the face. Look at how naturalistic it is. It's beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
Her beautiful lips and her eyes. And it's painted.
Wow.
It's not limestone.
I feel like this statue's even better than his statue.
Yeah, I know, right? So the basis for this big change is he gets to be Pharaoh and he says, you know what? There's not a lot of gods. There's one God. And he introduces monotheism to Egypt.
He really just changed the religion.
Yeah. So there's his name Akhenaten literally means like, what does it mean? The exact translation? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the basis for everything he does is this thing. That is the one God that he says there is. Nope, that is Aten.
Aten.
It's, for audio listeners, it's a circle with a bunch of lines coming out of it, and at the end of the lines there are hands.
Me when I'm a circle with a bunch of lines coming out of it and there are hands.
Anyway.
All right.
This is who he says the new God is.
Okay.
Aten is the god of sun. And look at, it's the sun and it's reaching down with its arms to all of the people.
That was in his relief?
It was in his relief print. There's Aten right there.
Ooh.
So Akhenaten's name literally translates to, I gotta pull it up, effective for Aten. That's what his name means. So he comes in, he introduces this different type of art. It's more expressionistic. It's less idealized. It's more stylized. He breaks the canon. He breaks the religion. And then he dies. And everything goes back to the way it was before.
What?
They go back to the canon.
Wait.
They go back to multiple gods. They forget about him.
They were like, that was fun. Let's...
Literally. Well...
Dang.
Yeah. So, in this situation, I think his stuff is beautiful. I think the non-Amarna style. So yeah, that's the Amarna style, is the art that was so different that Akhenaten introduced.
Yeah.
And so I think it's beautiful. I think both are beautiful. But the question I want to pose to you is, one guy said he had this art and it was really different. And he says, this is how it is now. This is how art is. And is it good because he said it was good, or was it actually good? What does that make you think of today? Who are people that like do weird new stuff, and is it really good because it's good, or is it good because it's just different? And they say it's different.
Interesting. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I
mean, it was probably like, obviously it was just accepted because
he was in charge.
Yeah. But also, like, one guy just said, this is the way it is now. This is how my art is going to be. And it's great.
Everybody's like, yeah.
And
then he left and everybody's like,
and then he left and everybody forgot about it. And that makes me think of like something that's often talked about with Picasso's work is like, is it really good because it's good? Or is it good because he was doing something new and different and he said it was cool?
Oh. Okay. So the things I'm thinking of are in film, obviously.
You think in film. I love it.
I feel bad because the first example that came to mind was D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, which is, I know that one.
That's the one with the the shot in the back of the truck. Yeah.
But sadly, that is like the meanest, worst film of all time because it's about the KKK. But not a good example because it's it's bad in thematic elements, of course. Yeah. But it was super revolutionary and really good because he decided to make the camera like a moving object instead of everything moved around the camera.
Yeah. That's the funny thing about the Amarna style. It wasn't revolutionary.
It's just a little different.
It was just different because it didn't change anything. They went back to how it was. So is this more about the art or is it more about the culture? Is it more about the man? Is it more about the canon? That's why I wanted to cover it, and why it's so amazing to me is because like it's this little blip in like Egyptian history that like nobody really talks about.
Yeah.
Because like
they're
it's
like,
just
sounds
funny
good to
because
me.
it's like obviously it's the pyramids and the hieroglyphs and like all the Egyptian art you see is of the canon. And then there's this freaking skin tag in their history of Akhenaten doing this weird art.
That's funny.
I love it. It's so interesting to me.
Wow. And it literally influenced nothing beyond that point.
Not really. They were so committed to their canon.
They just like went right back to it.
Yeah.
I cannot think of like, because I feel like in film, a film is closely tied to technology. And so as technology advances, film technique advances. And so when people make new discoveries like sound and moving the camera and everything like that, like it changes everything and people tend to do the new thing.
Yeah.
I can't really think of like things that people like bring in and they're like, all right. And then they go back to normal.
And that's what I think. That's how I think about this is it was probably more of just a cultural thing.
Yeah.
That people were like, that's not how we did it before. That's not how we honor the gods. You weirdo. Like, because he wasn't really doing anything like new. He was just doing something different. He was still doing relief prints and sculpture.
Yeah. Did they like accept it? Like, did they like it or were they anxious to get back?
I'm not sure, but I mean, they didn't really keep any of it around what he did stylistically. You see, I mean, when you look at Greek art and Roman art a lot later, it's influenced heavily by the Egyptian canon, early Greek. It's pretty, it's you can see a lot of similarities. And so what Akhenaten did wasn't really revolutionary or new.
Yeah.
It's just kind of different and weird. And you know what? Love it.
I think it is cultural, mainly.
I think it's cultural, yeah.
I'm thinking about today, and I feel grateful for all of the freedom that we have of expression, particularly.
Me too.
And because I feel like if we had someone who was in charge that said everything goes like this, and you have to follow it whether you like it or not, I think that would make it so a lot of art didn't exist, obviously.
That's the thing is, I think the main thing is we don't have a canon.
Yeah. And everybody's free to do whatever they want, and people are so different that different art is the norm.
Mm-hmm. And, a canon is good for when you have a solid, strong civilization and gods to honor, like the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a system like that, a canon is great for that. But nowadays, with so many differing ideas and cultures and people, a canon just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Akhenaten was ahead of his time because differences and unconventional things make things interesting. Art history goes from this is how we do it, religious people, animals, and like that's it. And then Impressionism comes in. Yeah, and there's something unconventional. And then you have Surrealism coming in, and then you have...
And I feel like it builds on...
It builds on it. And so I admire Akhenaten for taking a leap, being himself.
Yeah.
And I think that how rigid the Egyptians were just goes to show that there was nowhere to go but up with art history. Not to say that Egyptian art was bad, but it was, and obviously there was different cultures. Egyptian art was not worldwide art, but I'm saying it's emblematic of the art world back then and how there was nowhere to go but up. I mean, things went from, ceremonial to impressionistic and expressionistic. And now today we have everything, which I really like. But I also really like back then how things were held back, things were purposeful, and there's a lot to say there. There's a lot to unpack there with the introduction of technology and industrialism and all that stuff. But I think the point I'm trying to get at is I like how art history started. I like where it's been. And I like that Akhenaten was kind of a little weirdo.
Yeah. Beautifully said, McKay. Thank you so much.
That's really all I have to say about it.
Thank you. I'm still racking my brain for something like equivalent that I
feel like I kind of interrupted your thought about A Birth in a Nation. Did I?
No.
Did you express that?
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
I just can't think of another thing that's like equivalent that happened and everybody was like, all right, we're done with that.
Yeah. There might be parts of history that I'm missing. It might not be as simple as I'm making it out to be,
but then again, I feel like it also kind of brings out the power of the individual in art creation.
Oh, I like that.
And just because this was of course one person over a lot of people.
Yeah.
But even like in today's world, you can be one person. You can be a Jackson Pollock and do something new and cool that some people hate and some people love, and it changes the way people think.
Kind of like Banksy.
Yeah.
Banksy is someone I admire today as someone who like is recognized for doing really different stuff.
Yeah.
What he does is kind of like not that different, but how he does it and the messages behind it are really cool.
We'll cover Banksy in an episode.
Oh, I want to talk about Banksy so bad.
Maybe I'll talk about him first. All right.
Well, follow us on our socials.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, gallery_podcast on everything, and that's it, I guess.
And
thanks for joining us.
Don't be greedy and
try different things. Be an Akhenaten.
Be Akhenaten. Don't be greedy.
Yeah.
Or you'll end up in Death Valley. Okay.
What?
Bye.